So recently, I was filling out one of those intake forms, which called for me to input all of my personal information into various fields: name, Tanya Villanueva, Tepper, address, Miami, Florida, age, 53, sex, F for frequently. Just want to make sure you're all paying attention, because we're about to get deep here. Anyway, the one field that always jams me up is marital status. We always get these choices: single, married, separated, divorced, and widowed, and we can only choose just one. I know to choose married because happily I am to a wonderful man I'll tell you about in a minute, but I'm also widowed, and it's a huge part of my life experience. I was 33 years old when I became a widow on September 11th, 2001, when my fiancé, Sergio, answered the call to the World Trade Center and never came home. Sergio was my everything. We had just gotten engaged a few months before on our 7-year anniversary, and our lives were deeply intertwined. We owned a home and business together. Our day-to-day lives were filled with family and friends, and we were really looking forward to starting a family the following year after we got married. When the love of your life dies, it is a life-shattering pain. You don't just grieve over the death of the person who was the center of your universe. You grieve over the death of the life you had when they were here, because everything changes. The way I slept changed. Instead of sleeping on the left side of the bed, I moved to the right, and I would spray cologne on Sergio's shirt, put it on, get in bed, prop pillows up against me, all in a futile attempt to try and feel him next to me again. The way I ate changed. Instead of buying and preparing the ingredients for a home-cooked meal, which he always loved, I found myself alone in front of my TV, eating leftover takeout or frosted mini-wheats for dinner. My social life changed. Instead of couples night out with all our friends, I was that extra wheel who was left behind. And instead of planning our wedding and fulfilling our dream of becoming parents together, I was filling out forms with this word deceased stamped across it. And every time I had to check off that box, widow, it was soul-crushing. And it's in this life-shattering pain that we're called upon to summon the courage to keep pushing forward toward hope and healing. Where does that courage come from? Well, for me, I had the unfortunate good luck of being in community with other 9/11 widows, and we went to therapy and support groups together. There was something comforting about not being the only one who didn't want to live anymore and still showing up for each other in spite of it. We got through it knowing that pain was the price we paid for loving someone so deeply, and none of us would ever trade that pain for never having that love. We also got through it with humor. My mantra during our many group therapy sessions was, "This shit sucks." And one of my favorite memories from that time is when I had these shirts made up with a saying on it and the laughter of all of the family members who I gave them to. I also found courage by looking at the widows on the road before me who were living meaningful and happy lives again. If they could do it, then maybe I could too one day. And once I started believing in the possibility, I had to figure out how I would get myself there. I learned that self-care was critical for my survival, and my days were easier when I made the space to lean into the pain as well as take breaks from it by seeking out those people and activities which brought me comfort, peace, purpose, and joy. Over time, I also realized that there was one thing that really kept me going, and it was my curiosity. I became curious about the protocols which were expected of me as Sergio's widow. Even though his remains were never found, I knew I had to plan a service for him sometime. So I attended countless memorials and funerals to support the other families, and where I took mental notes about what would be fitting when his time came. I became curious when another widow did a tribute book for her fiancé, and I enlisted the help of a friend who was a graphic designer who taught me how to lay out the pages for my own book for Sergio. For weeks, I sorted through and chose the very best pictures of Sergio. I cried till I felt like my face was going to fall off, wrote anecdotes, and chose thoughtful quotes which captured his spirit. That time was filled with purpose, and in every way, this tribute book is a labor of love. We gave hundreds of them out at his memorial service in June 2002, and the reaction was universal. People felt like they really got to know who he was through the pages. That time, when I look back at that time, it is the thing that I'm most proud of, and I learned a new skill to boot, graphic design. Another spark of curiosity hit me when a close friend of mine, Jenny, called me and told me she was going for her motorcycle license. Maybe that's my path, to become a biker chick, the complete opposite of the gift shop owner I was alongside Sergio. I figured I'd get my license on my 34th birthday, one of the first milestone days without him, and as soon as I committed, I was going through one of our drawers and came across his permit book to study for it. I had totally forgotten that 8 years prior to our relationship starting, Sergio wanted to get a motorcycle of his own, but never did. So I found purpose in pursuing that dream for him, and I have to say, I felt a little badass accomplishing it. Fast forward to January 2003, I bought a condo here with Jenny to get away from New York and the daily onslaught of 9/11 reminders. And since I was spending about a week every month here, I decided to buy my first motorcycle here, a black Honda Shadow. And I would ride the local streets, feeling the weight of the grief just blow off of me. And I realized that that one spark of curiosity led me to one of the biggest tools of my healing. Now, my childhood best friend, whom I affectionately called Debbie Dog, would climb on the back of my bike, and we'd go riding every once in a while when I was in Miami with another friend named Carl. On one particular day in May 2003, we decided to head off of South Beach and took A1A about 40 miles north toward Fort Lauderdale. On the way, we stopped for gas, and as we rolled into the station, there was this group of about 7 hardcore-looking biker dudes staring at us. I was immediately intimidated. So I drove straight to the pump, keeping my eyes down and focusing on my mission to fill the tank without dropping the bike. Debbie Dog, however, also saw them staring and, having no filters, brazenly blurted out, "2 chicks on a bike, it's hot, right?" I was mortified. I mean, that's some inside voice commentary, but she opened the door to conversation, and before I knew it, I was standing next to a guy named Ray, and within minutes, I blurted out, "I'm going to get my motorcycle tank painted in honor of my fiancé, Sergio, who was a firefighter killed on September 11th. Blech! And Ray pointed to his license plate and showed me that he had a firefighter angel attached to it, and told me that he used to be a firefighter too when he was younger. So we all became fast friends. The guys invited us to ride with them for a bit, and when it was time to head back to Miami, Ray joined us because he lived in the area, and on the way, at the stoplights, we talked about, hey, let's all go and get a bite to eat once we get back to South Beach. And by the time we got to South Beach, Debbie and Carl decided to bail, leaving me with Ray alone. Can we say awkward? Awkward. Not wanting to give him any mixed signals, I talked about Sergio the whole time. I even wound up crying. And Ray just patiently listened and gently said, "You must have really loved him." My response, "Yes, I still love him, and I will always love him." A few months later, during one of my trips, we all went riding, and I gave Ray a copy of Sergio's book. And after going through it, he said, "I hope someone would love me enough to do this for me one day." which validated all of the love that I poured into the book. Now, Ray was such a great guy, but I was still looking for Sergio. And so I decided to play matchmaker and thought he would be a good match for Jenny. Now, on the night I introduced them, Jenny got hit by a car. I know, it was the craziest thing. She bounced off of the hood, flew through the air about 12 feet, landed, slid about another 10 feet more, jumped up. She was wearing a sleeveless shirt, and she was completely okay. I promise you, she was completely okay. Say hi to Jenny. There she is, completely okay. So with all of the excitement of the evening, Ray and Jenny never hit it off romantically. But to this day, he still calls her Crash. Now, if ever there were a time when I felt there were mysterious forces at play which have set me on my path, that was definitely a turning point. A few weeks later, I had a dream about Ray, and I woke up with a new kind of curiosity. So I knew I had to follow it through. We went out to dinner. I did my little dance of seduction, and our love story began. We got married in May 2006, and a few months later, on the 5th anniversary of September 11th, it was the official start date of my pregnancy with our first daughter, Amelia. And even more serendipity, our second daughter, Samantha, was due on September 11th, 2008. Gratefully, we are living happily even after here in Miami, and we have the added bonus of staying close to Sergio's family. Ray calls Sergio's mom, our daughters call her abuela. And this past September, we all went to New York to honor Sergio for the 20th anniversary, and I was so proud to wear this t-shirt that we had made in honor of him, and so profoundly touched to see Ray and our daughters wearing it too. Now, it's so easy to fast forward to that happily even after ending, but the truth is, it was really terrifying opening my heart up again after losing Sergio. I struggled with the feeling that I was betraying him, as well as our love story. And it took time and lots of therapy to integrate the grief of losing him, as well as time for me to fully accept that I honored my commitment to him, till death do us part. And the harsh truth was, he parted. I learned that I wasn't moving on from Sergio, I was moving forward, and his love and our memories would always be a part of my heart. And instead of replacing our love story, I learned that I was adding to it with my new chapters with Ray and our girls. Love grew bigger and in directions I never imagined. Even so, as joy and sorrow coexisted, I still had this underlying fear that if I loved with my whole heart again, I was going to lose it all again. And that fear blocked me until the day I finally put together all of the lessons that loving and losing Sergio taught me. Our time here is limited, and we are here to love and be loved fully and completely. Love is what gives our lives meaning, and the rewards far outweigh the pain of loss. I have to love Ray and our girls with the same fierceness that I love Sergio, because the reality is there's a 50-50 chance that one of us is going to die one day, and I would hate to regret not loving them enough. In many ways, Ray and Sergio are so different, and in many ways, they're so alike. And I don't love one more than the other, just as I don't love one of my daughters more than the other. My love for Ray and his love for me is just as complete as my love for Sergio. And I love that we are sharing our lives together. And as hard as it is to own that widowed status, it says to the world, you loved someone beyond their death. And this is why I will always identify as Sergio's widow, just as much as I identify as Ray's wife. So for those of you who are wondering what's next after your own loss, I will leave you with a few nuggets of wisdom. First and foremost, find your tribe. Moving forward is so much easier when you have others around who get it. Second, Allow your life to unfold. And choose who you spend your time with wisely. Every relationship should bring you love, not more grief. And you deserve greatness, especially after everything you've been through related to your loss. And even if romantic love isn't something that you're searching for, continuing to love yourself, your person who has died, your family, friends, fur babies, community, can bring you meaning and purpose and make life worth living in spite of the pain. One of the things, that I'm most proud of when it comes to my love for Ray is that I didn't wait for him to die to make this for him. He gets the hardcover version, thanks to technology moving forward with photo websites that didn't exist back then. Know that you will also move forward with your loved one, and you can also create new memories with them. Here I am, creating a new memory with Sergio over 20 years later on a TED stage. And also, we can't forget this very fundamental truth about life, and that is that each and every one of us is going to die one day. And we don't know if it's 50 years from now or 50 minutes from now. So love big and make a difference in the lives of others. And finally, stay curious. Follow those sparks which bring you comfort, peace, joy, laughter, inspiration, badassery, and connection to your loved one. Stay curious, and you just might be surprised at what pops up at the gas station on the road ahead. Thank you.